Hi everyone, how are you? Please let me know if you can hear me and if you can see my video properly and clearly. I'll just check the audio once. Yep. So, how is everyone doing? It's Monday and I'm back again with another live stream session. One of the people who follow Chalchitra recommended that we discuss some of the famous classics or books, etc. So, I was sitting on my table and I saw this book that was lying just ahead of me. It was Catcher in the Rye, and I thought, it's a classic. A lot of people have read it, so why not discuss it? So this is my copy of Catcher in the Rye, The Catcher in the Rye by, yep. I'll just, yep. Can you see the screen now? So the C doesn't exist because my younger sibling borrowed the book from me for a school trip, and he finished the book, of course, but we never saw the C of the catcher again ever. So for elder siblings, never lend out your books to your younger siblings. And for younger siblings, in case you borrow the books from your elder siblings, please take care of them. Like this is the cover now. And like my brother tried writing the C on the cover, and you can see it even behind the book, which is and for a couple of pages. Uh, so yeah, that's the story of my copy. How is everyone doing? Hi Saptarshi, hi Aman, Kirti. Um, yep, thank you so much, Mega Kika. I always get confused by your name, and I really hope I pronounce it right. Mayuresh Mishra, best banned book ever. Yes. So for those of you who do not know about Catcher in the Rye, it's one of the best selling um, books we've had. It sells every year at least 9 million copies, and until now, it has sold at least 65 million copies worldwide. And okay, it has never, like, despite it being a best selling book, it has never been adapted into a film. And despite the fact that it has never been adapted into a film, it has still remained so relevant in all our lives. And it's also the most challenged book each year, and also the second most recommended book every year. This is like something that Wikipedia told me. So yeah. Uh, this is not the original cover, Saptarshi, but I was really proud of this copy because it was a second-hand copy. The person before me bought it in 1997 when I was born, the year I was born. So it was kind of special. And this is what remains of the book. It's actually the Atcher in the Rye now, but all good. Uh, so Bharvi, Bharvi says this is going to have radical opinions. No one in just in the middle about it. You either hate it or love it. Oh well. So let me know how many of you have actually read Catcher in the Rye, and how many of you are planning to read it or have not read it or not heard of it at all. And then maybe we can start the discussion. And I was hoping we can start with plot analysis a bit. I'm not really good at it, but I can always try. Um, Nothing phony about it. So when I was first reading Catcher in the Rye, I read a lot of British classics while growing up. So I actually was not used to the language that Catcher in the Rye carries, or our protagonist, Holden Caulfield. I'm not sure if that's the correct pronunciation of his name. I tried to find it, but I couldn't. Holden Caulfield, the protagonist, the language that he came with, I was not prepared for it. So it took me a time to get adjusted to the language. But having read it like more than once, and the last time that I read it was actually in 2019 or 18. Having read it at least thrice, I absolutely love this book. There are certain books that we love because of how they impart imagery to us and our minds. But there are certain books that we fail to appreciate because they also challenge our language, and this book is one of them. So It took me a while to realize that the only time when you go shopping for books or when you pick up a book, don't just look at the plot, look also at the character development and the language that comes with it, because these are some other things that we miss out on. And even though the plot of the book might be really nice, sometimes we just hate the book because of the language, because we're not used to it. So that's that. My sister knows every line from the movie The 39 Steps. Right. Okay. I think if a book is handed over to somebody, it should be called third handed. Because one person has two hands, so when you're getting it, you are the third hand to hold it. This is something that Saptarshi has commented. Uh, I will decide by the end of the stream whether to read it or not. Mega Keka. I don't know. I am pretty certain you'll get a lot of spoilers by the end of the stream, but okay. Um, Ashutosh Kumar, you have to stop calling me Pani. I don't know why do you call me Pani 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 too, but it's all right. I mean, my school people used to call me 101 back in 10th grade because Vaani Pani, and then what is something that 101, which is the fire brigade supplies to you with in abundance when there is a problem, when there is an emergency related to fire. Uh, Thank you, Utkarsa. Um, it's mentioned in Perks of Being a Wallflower. I haven't read the book, I've seen the movie. Perks of Being a Wallflower. I think Salinger's abusing will cause more controversy than the book. I don't know a lot about the author actually. The little I know is that he actually served in the war. He also saw some concentration camps, etc., etc. So yeah, thank you so much, guys. So let's do. I think I should just start with the book. Oh, Sushmita, I hope you're taking care of yourself. You're suffering from COVID. Oh my God. I mean, I hope you have a speedy recovery and all is well with you. Um, Uday Kumar Raju, out of context, planning to read The Sense of an Ending by Julian Barnes. I hope you like the book. I mean, I recommended it in one of the previous episodes. So, yeah, let's just start with the discussion. Please let me know if you read the book in the comment section. And if there is something that you hate about the book or something that you like or whatever, just like keep engaged in the conversation. That will be really nice. So one thing that I actually said, what I like about Catcher in the Rye is I think it was one of the first books that challenged my vision. um, we live in an image drenched world, like we're surrounded by everything that offers a ready made image to us. So when you look at books, and it might be a thought that I've taken from Catcher in the Rye, I'm not certain. uh, but if it is a thought that's discussed in the book, you can let me know as well because I haven't read the book. And the last time I picked it up properly was in 2019 or 18. So I just read a Wikipedia summary before the live. So when you are reading a book, you obviously play the movie in your head. So in a way, the movie in our head is a very the imagery in our head is a low budget film, and the more clarity you have in the film, the better you are able to connect with the book. And all the books that we read, some of them might make us feel in an either direction, and Catcher in the Rye is one of those books. I had to read it twice to truly appreciate how good this book is and to understand why it's still so relevant. Um, our protagonist, of course, is a 16-year-old boy. I'll just, okay. So, our protagonist is a 16-year-old boy whose name is Holden Caulfield. And if you, in the first few pages itself, you'll realize how judgmental he is. He, in the first few pages of the book, he calls his brother a prostitute for abandoning the book writing and moving to Hollywood for screenwriting, screenplays, etc., etc. And throughout the book, I mean, I don't know if Weber will appreciate this book or if any of the movie buffs will do so, but you see the shade Holden Caulfield throws at cinema and movies, and it's hilarious. Of course, he's a 16-year-old teenage angst and everything, but despite that, you will notice he's very judgmental and he continuously throws shade at everything. Um, But then he has been in the beginning of the book, at the beginning of the book, he has been expelled from his school and he's traveling back home to NYC. He's decided that he will only get home or reach home after his parents receive the expulsion letter from the school. So instead of going home, he books a cab to NYC and everything, New York, and he burns his cash for a few days. And he tries his best that somebody at least will listen to him throughout these days. Uh, and the entire conversation that he tries to have with everyone he meets, old friends, old teachers, the cab drivers, even prostitutes and nuns, is the same thing. It's about adulting and his fears about becoming an adult. He, for some reason, Holden Caulfield is obsessed with the idea of, or protective of the idea of innocence that children have. Um, he's so protective of this idea that for some reason this particular line in the book where this car is passing by, which is shown to be extremely wide and really nice, and he does not have the balls to throw a snowball at it because he does not want to ruin it. I'll just read the comments. Vani uses certain a lot in her sentences. I do that. If there's one thing I hate, it's the movies. Hi Arpit, how are you? So this is my friend, guys, and I don't know. I was just discussing the book with it. I think he's the biggest fan of this book ever that I've met, and it's an inside joke which will now be public. But I think his life is really inspired by this book, or maybe it's the other way around, which can't be because the book is pretty old. But yes. Hi, Arpit. Just let us know what's your favorite bit of the book, maybe. So, overall, if you hate the book, I think you must understand. I wouldn't actually force you to understand anything, but I feel this is what I realized after my first reading, second reading actually, because the first reading I was a little underwhelmed. That the book is not about the story, but it's about the context of the story. Mm, so, yeah, throughout his journey back home from his school, he tries to get people to listen to him about his fears of adulting, etc., etc. And over and over again, he will try to reach out to people who will tell him that adulthood will be okay. But he can never find anyone who will actually sit back and listen to him and who will actually have these conversations with him. You know how kabhi kabhi, if some younger person or if anybody approaches you, you just dismiss them. That is what is happening to him. So you kind of feel bad for him as well. Hollywood ka Ramadhir hai Holden Road. Who's Ramadhir? Hi, Amol. I don't know. I'm sorry. Ramadhir Singh ne boli thi, maybe. Okay. You've lost me. I'm so sorry. But yeah, so overall, he wants to stop time. This is something that you will realize throughout the book. Um, this reminds me of this song called, it's by this band. I don't know if it exists anymore. Um, I used to love this song back in class 11, 12. It was, I don't remember the name of the song. The band was Lady Antebellum, and there was a lyric that went, "Time is the thief I would rob." And throughout the book, I was reminded of these lyrics. Um, every There is this one point where he goes to a museum, and I've underlined this bit in the book as well, where he says that everything in the museum has just stayed right where it is throughout the years, and that is what he likes. And he is someone that you realize, oh, he's someone you realize actually hates change, and I think he's scared of adulting or something. Is adulting good is the topic of today's primetime debate. The nation wants to know. Ramdhir is the antagonist of Gangs of Wasipur. I am yet to see Gangs of Wasipur because when I actually sat down to watch it I was underage. So my parents, and then I never came around to watching it again. So I don't know if I should continue with this discussion, but there's a funny thing. So, Holden, our protagonist, uses the word sort of, this phrase, over 179 times in the entire book. Uh, yep. Thank you, SD. Let us know if you've read this book, The Catcher in the Rye. And yep, so, writing stuff, so obviously, the entire book is also written in passive voice, which is one of my absolute favorite reason. No, which is one of the many reasons why this book is one of my absolute favorites. Because I use a lot of passive voice, and if you ever sit down to write, there are teachers that reprimand you for writing in passive voice because it creates distance with the reader, and the active voice sort of in a way engages the reader a lot more. But the entire book has been but the entire book uh, the entire narration is in passive voice because in a way it's the coping mechanism of our protagonist. So the basic idea is the protagonist doesn't want to grow up. He hates adulting. He hates it. He has all these first world problems. It's kind of ridiculous how a first world problem can become the theme of an evergreen classic. But yes, um, what is your opinion of first world problems, guys? Let me know in the comment section below. And how many of you have read The Catcher in the Rye? Please let me know in the comments. आप में से कोई बता ही नहीं रहे and it's so awkward. I've been asking this question for 3 times at least. Uh, I will try and watch all the movies that you recommend, guys. Um, you can give us a heads up a week ahead. I will read the book and come ready to the class prepared. We can actually do that. Would you guys want to do a reading session of sorts where I maybe post it on my Instagram handle or somewhere else that, okay, next Monday we'll be discussing this book and maybe all of us can like just revise it or read it and then discuss it on a Monday, on the Monday live. How would that sound actually to you? Please let me know. One stream for Norwegian Wood. Sure, why not? I'll actually have Weber for that stream because he's a big Murakami fan. Um, I just read it, Metaphor. And how did you like it? I hope you're talking about Catcher in the Rye. Uh, Problems are problems, doesn't matter if it's first or third world. True. This is something my friend actually advised me a couple of years ago when I was ranting about how my problems are so tiny and still I'm having such a hard time dealing with them. But yes. I finished that book in the early days of lockdown. Time to read it again, I think. I've read it, but was too young to understand all the themes. I know, I read it I've read it thrice. I am not trying to boast or something, but I've read it thrice, and it was today that I realized. So, it was today that I sort of understood a few things. So, America, mein, this book is recommended by a lot of teachers. Like half the teachers recommend it to their class, the other half get suspended for recommending it because it's a banned book. But they grow up discussing such books. I only read As You Like It of Shakespeare while I was growing up, and The Canterville Ghost, which wasn't really the Bhutnath of literature. Uh, do you think opinions of this book are divided by gender? That's usually what I've seen. Guys tend to relate to this more, you and I excluded. I don't know, Bharvi. I'm not certain. I really the people that I discuss the books with. I think it's in hindsight, if I think about it, it's my problem as well I because all of us, I don't know if it's just me, I tend to surround myself with like-minded people, and a lot of people that I know either do not get time to read, or if they read, they actually love the book. So I think we have this 90% of the times my tastes intersect with what they like or people I like, I surround myself with like. That's a great idea. Cool. Then we can probably do it. Please recommend Ugly Life mein what is the book you would like to pick up? The classics. Or we can do poetry as well or something. You should know. Okay, Sushmita. Sushmita, you have to stop commenting in Bengali because I can't read it and I need people who can translate it for me. Unless and until, of course, you don't want me to read it. Uh, I read it 2 years back, liked it, will reread it this week. Uh, cool. So I'll do one thing. You can comment down what books do you want, or you can DM me on Instagram. My handle is Vaani Mahesh, VAANIMAHESH. Or you can write an email to me as well, vaanimahesh04@gmail.com. Or you can tweet to me, or perhaps I think those are the only ways you can reach to me. You can let me know what are the books that you would like to take up, and definitely on Monday streams we can discuss books. So okay, there is a, but I did not like the book that much. Like everyone talks like it's one of the greatest books, but I don't like it. Well, wait, but I don't think it's like that. But that maybe I'm not that much into classics. Mentalik Sansar. Okay, let us know why you do not like this book because it's always good to have like varied opinions. That's how you grow when you see every side of a coin, right? Next life poetry, please. I want to know more about poetry. Sushmita was asking me if I've read a certain novel. Okay, cool. Uh, great. So, also, Catcher in the Rye has this. Okay, I just noticed my copy also misses a G in the name of the author. I don't know. I should probably put my brother up for adoption. High time. Um, how to lose friends and alienate people. Okay, okay. I thought this is actually the great summary of Catcher in the Rye. Arpit in the comments, please take notes. Poetry by Pash. Pash. I've read only in Hindi, but really liked it. Great. Um, I think people usually question what the point of the book is as a criticism. Yeah, that is what I was saying. I think a lot of criticism comes from the fact that Catcher in the Rye is a lot of first world problems. This is what I was saying. The protagonist will always complain, but he will not do anything about it. He's constantly complaining, he's constantly judging everything else, but he is not doing anything to do, he's not doing anything to do something about it. He's just driven mad by his blind desire to preserve the innocence. But if you think about it, it's also heroic. This cause is so important to him that he wants to preserve the innocence of the entire world that drives him crazy. For those of you, I don't know if I should give the spoiler, but the name Catcher in the Rye, okay, this will come in later, but I'll anyway tell you because you're watching the stream and we're discussing Catcher in the Rye. Um, The Catcher in the Rye is actually inspired by a poem. I don't remember the name of the author. The poem goes something, the title of the poem is Coming Through the Rye. And a child, when our protagonist is in the New York City, he meets a boy. He doesn't meet him, but there is a boy and they cross paths and he's singing, If a body catch a body coming through the rye. And when he goes home and he gets reminded of the poem because he's singing the poem basically, a poem. But he gets home to his younger sister and she asks him, "What does he want to be?" And he says, "A catcher in the rye." And the entire idea of being the catcher in the rye is that there is a field of rye, and at the edge of the field, there is a cliff and there are kids that are running everywhere around the field and he wants to be the catcher who prevents the kids from falling off the cliff. And I think it's a metaphor for falling into adulthood where you meet all sorts of sins, the deadly sin, which was seven, by the way. And so the entire idea is that he wants to be the catcher, the person that catches the kids in this field of rye, because this field of rye is kind of something like Peter Pan ka Neverland tha, or maybe the Garden of Eden for Adam and Eve, and so on. But yes, there are certain people who do not appreciate understand the point of it. And when you don't understand the point of it, maybe you should start looking at it from the angle of the author. Although I wouldn't recommend it, because a book, it's not its author. It's like saying the curtains are blue and then trying, the author said the curtains are blue, and then you're trying to understand why they're blue, and then maybe the author just meant the curtains are blue. So unless you know the author in and out, you cannot always predict what he has, why he has written the book, or etc. But what people say is that the author, he served during the war. He went and saw a lot of concentration camps, and there he saw blind hatred and torture and horrors of death and life. And that is something that killed the innocence inside of him. And therefore, quite ironically, he came back, and instead of writing a war novel, which most of the authors do, he wrote a book about trying to preserve the innocence and going mad after it. I don't know if it makes sense. Let me know, because I just made it up right now on the stream, so I'm not certain if it's the right idea. Can a book be good and pointless? I don't know. I haven't read any pointless books actually. It depends on you how you take a book. You can enjoy it and not take anything from it. That's up to you. Making a book pointless is up to you, as much as making it good as well as making it bad is. You can discuss Metamorphosis also. It's an easy book to finish in 1 week, even if you've done a lot of work. True that. Um, I was fascinated by the fact that John Lennon got killed by the guy who had read his book. He actually, I don't know if he had read this book. We're talking about Mark David Chapman. Um, he actually bought the book the same day. Uh, he shot John Lennon, and he bought, like, the day he shot John Lennon, that was the day he bought the book. And then he fatally shot him, and then he sat down, opened the book, and was quietly reading it when the people came and arrested him, maybe. Of course, arrested him. And in the book, there was this note to Holden Caulfield, who is our protagonist, Holden Caulfield. And in the book, there was this note that David Chapman had written, and it said, to Holden Caulfield, from Holden Caulfield, this is my statement. And when I read it, I had shivers. I don't know why, but yeah. The book actually has 26 chapters, and there is a movie called Chapter 27, which is about David Chapman. And perhaps this life can be Chapter 28. This is something a friend said, and I stole it. But yeah, let me know if anyone has seen Chapter 27, because I haven't. But a friend of mine recommended it to me when I finished reading the book once. Holden does acknowledge, though he's a hypocrite. I guess being, I think Arun K. Nair actually rightly said it. Holden does acknowledge, though he's a hypocrite. I guess being a hypocrite can be an initial step towards him. Yeah, recognition and realization. This is what most therapists tell us is the first step to recovery, right? But yeah, he realizes the fact that he's a hypocrite. Um, and that is the first step, yes. Um, I think not everything has to mean something specific or has to make a statement. That's true. And it's up to you if you enjoy a book or take something from it. Nobody can force you to do it. Mark Twain, Tom Sawyer. I love that book, The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. I literally have 5 to 6 copies of that book, because on one birthday, a lot of people gifted me the same book. So, well, yeah. Metamorphosis is great. Mentalik Sansar says this, but it's not easy to finish. It may be easy when you look the size, but when reading it was never ending, at least for me. Yeah, it is sort of, it has some difficult language, but yeah. Unlike George Orwell, any Japanese works you've read? Shangrita? I don't know how to pronounce your name, and I really am sorry for that. Um, but yeah, I recommended a book in one of the not the recent, but in one of the episodes. It was, I think, The Factory by Hiroko Oyamada. It's actually a great book, and it will remind you of Orwell's 1984 and other dystopian worlds in some way. But yeah, yes, chapter 27 is on my watch list as well. Chapman presumably shot Lennon because he wanted to show the world that Lennon is a phony, in his opinion. I didn't know that actually. But I was reading today, and there have been quite a lot of shootings because of this book. And therefore, rightly so, it is actually the most censored book, but also the second most taught book. So that is something. But I think, I don't know how many of you have heard of this thing, and I think I'm pretty certain I'll get the pronunciation wrong. It's called the Stesand effect, uh, Steisand. This effect is actually a social phenomena where you kind of you try to hide or censor or tone down a lot of things so that not a lot of people come to know about it, but instead it just has the opposite effect. There are more people talking about it, there is more publicity, and I think that is something that happens to Catcher in the Rye. And I think it happens to a lot of book, and therefore a lot of classics tend to disappoint a lot of readers because they come in expecting a mind-blowing performance or a mind-blowing read or a movie, and eventually are underwhelmed by the product that they see. David Foster Wallace books. Of course, thank you so much for the recommendation. Shootings don't occur due to a book but due to the reader's intellect and worldview. I second that. Um, so I was actually finishing. So Holden says that he wants to be the catcher in the rye because of this poem by Robert Burns. I could still be wrong. And the name of the poem is Poem. I'm still learning to pronounce out the word. Coming through the rye. And there is a line that says, if a body catch a body coming through the rye. And he formed his entire opinion because of this one line. And then his sister corrects him. It's not if a body catch a body coming through the eye, but it's if a body cross a body coming through the eye. So one, it's just a word, but it changed his entire perspective. And now imagine that happening to people with different backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, different opinions, etc., etc. That will be the influence then will be beyond imagination. There'll be so many combinations and permutations of how you intercept a book or a writing. But yes, I have read We. No, I haven't. Or maybe I'm confusing it with somebody else, some other book. Um, if there is, okay, would you recommend reading the short stories or any particular book of Murakami to someone who has not read anything by him? Of course, I think the best way to enter, if you want to start reading an author, and this is something that I do a lot many times, and I think it's simpler as well, and in the busy lives that we lead, um, it's much easier to pick up short stories. And it will also give you the idea of what to expect because more often than not, a lot of writers have the same style of writing. So you easily understand, you will. So there was this book that I once read in which there was this mention of the bullshit radar. And a lot of us, especially the millennials and the Gen Z, have this radar at its full efficiency. So immediately we read something, we know whether we will be interested in it or not. In cases of books, of course, in case of books, it takes us a few chapters to realize if this book is worth it or not. But when you pick up a short story, it's a really short text, and you will know if you write the writing, if you like the writing of the author, or if you do not. I do not watch anime, Ayush. I'm sorry. I Saptarshi says, by the way, Vani, a horror special episode for Spooktober. Oh, Spooktober. No. Yes, definitely we can try. But the only horror special I've read is The Canterville Ghost because it was a must read in the. Oh, actually, there's another story. I don't know if maybe I can try recommending it in the future episodes, but I'm not sure if it's worth everybody's time. But please let me know if you would still like me to recommend that story. Because, yeah, because I love that story. Absolutely love it. If you like reading poetry, you should definitely read Robbie Burns. Uh, Especially, are we talking about the Robert Burns? Especially his love poems like I Fair Kiss and We. Thank you so much for the recommendation, Rishi Raj. I will definitely pick it up. It's high time I get back to reading poetry as well. Classics may be revolutionary during the time they're published, may be pretty commonplace now. But I don't know. Isn't that the whole point of it being a classic because it's still very relevant? The reason why Catcher in the Rye is still very relevant. I mean, I could be. You can correct me if you differ from me, but I feel the reason why Catcher in the Rye is still very relevant and hence a classic is because a lot of us question about adulthood. I mean, the reason why I read this book again was because I was getting out of college and I was panicking because for 4 years of my life, I had known this one building. I knew what was comfortable for me. And now all of a sudden, I was going to pay my taxes, pay my rent, food, everything by myself. And there are still days when I do not want to grow up and I want to go back to being a child because that's much easier. Of course, this is what again something that Wikipedia told me about the book. This was initially recommended for adults, intended for adults, The Catcher in the Rye. But a lot of even teenagers and young people read it because of the angst and alienation that is becoming so common now. And in a way, it is the critique on the superficiality of the society. There is this red hunting hat which has become so famous. Uh, it's one of the things that I want to own, and of course, I won't sport it. But he only wears. There is this particular place in the book. Not place. There is a particular point in the book where our protagonist confesses that he only wears the red hunting hat cap because he feels confident in it, but then he only wears it when he's alone. And this is something because he's forced to question his or decisions in public. And I think that's why it's still very relevant. And now you can pick up any other classic. It is still very relevant. So I think I somewhere disagree with you. Uh, and I could be wrong, of course. But you can change my opinion. It's very easy. Um, so therefore, I kind of disagree with you when you say that they may be pretty commonplace now. Any non-fiction worth reading? I will recommend it soon on the channel. I just realized I don't recommend a lot of non-fictions. I only recommend a lot of memoirs or yeah, but yes. Okay, when you say non-fiction, do you look at self-help and self-improvement, or are you looking at non-fictions that may include autobiographies, biographies, or memoirs? Angare is great collection of short stories. Ayush. Who's written the book Angare, Ayush? Please let us know in the comments. And you can also share why you really like it. Uh, then tune into my horror. Saptarshi is slowly trying to sabotage my audience. This is not cool, Saptarshi. Samir, do you have any other favorites in the stream of consciousness narrative genre? I'm not sure. Um, there are so many books. I just started like it. So I am aware of the fact that a lot of books are categorized into particular genres. Like there's fiction, there's fantasy, there's magical realism, there's realism, there's young adult fiction, there's adult fiction, and so on. And sometimes a lot of us are actually very skeptical to pick up a particular genre because of how we perceive the entire category to be. So I just realized today the difference between young adult fiction and adult fiction because I don't really believe in these categories. Of course, it's easy if you want to read something that's light. Of course, you can go to the young adult fiction or like something like that. Or if you want to read something that's heavy in terms of language, pick up a classic or something that's similar. But overall, I don't really, and you can let me know if you agree or disagree, but overall, I don't really support or promote different genres, categorizing books in different genres. That's like, this just came out of nowhere. Classic might not necessarily be relevant. It can also be something that first spoke about some so called taboo topic, but was later handled by some other books in a better way. I disagree. But of course, Catcher in the Rye is definitely still relevant, but I don't think that's true for all classics. Also, who decides what classifies as a classic? This is something that actually bothered me for quite a while. But this is what I learned. A classic is a classic as long as it's because it's still relevant. That's why we say there are certain fashion items which will always be classic for girls. Like, just support me if I'm not wrong. Like a little black dress is always a classic. You can wear it anytime, anywhere, for any occasion. And that is what a book is like. It's relevant to all the times. That's why it's still a classic. The Canterville Ghost was my friend's favorite story in class 7. I read it in class 12th because it was in the syllabus. Um, Mega Keka is sold. Guys, we convinced Mega Keka to read a book. At least one of us is going back and reading the book. So yeah, congratulations. Canterville Ghost is not horror, Vaani. Of course, I know that Rishiras, but yeah, I tried reading Goosebumps back in school. I was being sarcastic when I said that if I wasn't clear, um, I have like, but I haven't read anything else. But yeah, I tried reading Goosebumps. I returned it on the after reading the first 2 pages because I was shit scared. Uh, I haven't even seen any horror movies, to be honest. Maybe a ghost story and Bhutnath. That's it. And they aren't even classified horrors, in case you're wondering. Um, okay, the Aniruddha is going to also download a sample today on Kindle. I hope it's about the Catcher in the Rye, not the Canterville Ghost. Uh, is Kindle Unlimited worth the money? Are there good books available? I am not sure. I don't use a lot of Kindle. So, guys, please help our friend. I can't. Um, guys, let me know if you can still see me or hear me because I think there is some problem at my end. Um, what genre does Arkin Narayan books fall into? Like Man Eater of Balgudi? I think it's fiction. I wouldn't say much about it because I don't know how to categorize them, to be honest. But I'm pretty certain they are fiction. So, this is something I learned. There is fiction, like mota, there is fiction, non-fiction. Then there is a certain non-fiction ki apni categories. Then there is fiction ki apni categories like historical fiction, fantasy, etc., sci-fi, and so on. Then every subcategory also has a subcategory. So if you want to categorize, it can go forever. But I'm pretty certain Arkin Narayan falls into fiction, mota moti. Classic is something that has been decided by either majority or the elite part of the society. It may not be everybody's favorite item. True that. I completely agree. And well, this is actually a good point that the elite part of the society also kind of decides who will be the favorite. Sorry, what will be the whether it's a classic or not. Goosebumps is a failed horror for me. We are not like we are never going to discuss horror on this live stream, guys. Okay. You should try Stephen King. I don't know, I just can't read horror. I'm sorry. I tried reading Ghost Stories of Shimla Hills. A lot of you might laugh at me because I've seen my brother, younger one, 7 years younger, and he still mocks me for this. But I couldn't read Ghost Stories of Shimla Hills. I'm sorry. I tried reading it once. It we were like my family was on a vacation. They had come to pick me up from the college, and we were staying at a rest house. It was in the middle of nowhere, and my brother had bought Ghost Stories of Shimla Hills from the Shimla Ridge, and we were in the middle of nowhere in a rest house, and the wind was blowing, and I was trying to read a book. And of course, there was this narrative about this nurse, and the light went. That's it. And I don't want to read horror again because yeah. You can see me sweating right now. We had stacks of Hardy Boys in the library, which the librarian would hand over to us to read. Never tried reading them. Did I miss on something good? You sort of did, but it's okay. I loved Enid Blyton, and I loved her adventure series, and I love all her writings. She's one of my favorite writers. How will you categorize Bible? I'm not going to answer that. What about the modern classics? Or for best horror effects, read every day's newspapers. Uh, that's true. That's a very disturbing fiction. A classic is something that everybody wants to have read and nobody wants to read. That's by Mark Twain. Abhinay Lennon has quoted him. I always somehow end up pronouncing Lennon as Lennon in my mind because of John Lennon. But yeah, no, Samir, meant Enid. Famous five, yeah. There was also this, so there was like in our library, of course, there was a stack of Enid Blyton, Goosebumps, and all these books. But there was also this series by this author, Ron Roy, and I scream his name every chance I get. And I haven't met one person, or maybe I haven't, I've forgotten about it, but I haven't met one person who's actually read his books. And I'm trying to get the second-hand collection of the entire series. It's Ron Roy's A to Z Mysteries. And if you've read it, please let me know. I'll be the happiest person on planet Earth because it will be a validation that I'm just not imagining a series. It actually exists. It actually does exist. I found a book on Amazon. Uh, yeah. And quite recently, I realized Enid Blyton was actually a guy. I used to think she's it's an old woman in her recliner writing for us. Nancy Drew, yes. Oh, see? And it's female. So I think everyone should try books and movies regardless of classic label or not. Your taste is your taste, none of others' taste. Keep an open mind and keep reading. That's a beautiful note. And maybe on this note, we should end this stream today. But yeah, so all in all, so I'm used to like, so I work apart from like these streams and everything. I actually have a job. And quite recently, I am the person who's in charge of minutes of meetings. So at the end of the stream, I have to stop this urge from summarizing the entire stream for all of you, which is really irritating. But, and it's a guy. Let me just Google. Can someone just Google and let us know if Enid Blyton is a guy or a girl, please? Because I used to imagine her to be a woman, but quite recently I think I figured it was a male. But Tarshi today said it's a male. Samir says it's female, and now I do not know. Um, So I think, guys, we should end this stream today on a very happy note. On this note that Saptarshi said. So I think everyone should try books and movies together, regardless of classic label or not. Your taste is your taste, none of others' taste. Keep an open mind and keep reading. See, it's a female. It's a female Saptarshi, and also my head. I don't know why I thought it's a guy. Okay, no. Annie Blyton is a female. My bad. Please don't cancel me. I hope we won't. Nobody wants to cancel the anime streams. gender is a myth, right? Uh, and on that note, we can perhaps end the stream. And please let me know. We still have like 5 minutes before I go. Please let me know if what are the books you would want to read in the future and discuss on the live stream. And should it become what went wrong? I'm sorry. Should it become a regular thing on Mondays? Maybe we can discuss books in addition to discussing letters as well. For a change, we can always talk about books and poetry. Of course, we discuss short stories in on Thursday with Vaibhav as well on the live stream. But would you want it to become a dedicated stream for discussing perhaps authors, literature, which I cannot do in most of the daily recommendations? But yeah. Also, fun fact today, I recommended this book. If you haven't seen the video yet, please do. And I recommend this book, which was Room. I was a little skeptical about it because I thought a lot of you must have already seen the movie. But yeah, I forgot to share a few points, but I don't think they're very important. I actually was speaking to a friend of mine, and so I was like, when I was reading this book, The Room, I've just quickly changed to another topic, but I'll just anyway talk. I recommend this book today, and it's from the perspective of a 5 year old. And throughout the book, I was kind of curious how do people actually, how did, because it was also adapted into a movie, I was quite a little curious to realize how they adapted the perspective of 5 year old in the movie. To my surprise, they shot everything at low angles, from low angles. And this is something a friend of mine recently told me. So I think that will be the movie I watch next. The Unbearable Lightness of Being by Milan Kundera. Can we please discuss it? I think we should discuss Milan Kundera. I think he's a wonderful writer and rather underrated in Indian scene. Or maybe he is not so underrated as I think he is. But yeah. So I we still don't have an agenda. A lot of you want to discuss Murakami, which is great. After your video, I'm still reading about Elizabeth and that bunker in Austria. I know, right? I spent like so I shot the video. Um I'm not happy with the video because I shot it in a hurry because I was getting late for the office. But I spent a lot of my time reading about Elizabeth and the bunker myself. And there are, I mean, if you want to know, there are a couple of incidents that have taken place in America as well, in addition to this one from Austria, Aniruddha. And please let me know if I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I really don't know. And left it after 10 or 20 minutes. Why did you leave it after 10 or 20 minutes, Shivan? I mean, I really like to know what went wrong so that I don't make the same mistakes when I'm writing a book. Just kidding. I thought it'd be funny. So Ayush doesn't want to discuss any Murakami. So why not Ayush? Why would you not like? I'm not coming from a condescending place. I'm just curious. Why would you not want to discuss Murakami? Bradbury, the 100-year-old man. Pretty cool. How about we do A Man Called Oaf? I've been trying to read that book and I haven't, but it would be interesting if we could discuss that book because it's like right in front of me. So that was the thought that came to me. Uh, Yep. So am I pronouncing it right correctly, Anuradha? Please let me know. So yeah, by huge Room fan here. By the way, the Room and Room are totally different. I know that. I've taken note of that, Saptarshi. But thank you for pointing it out anyway. What about political literature like Communist Manifesto? Do you want to discuss it on live stream? Because I'm really because yeah, then it might get a little, I don't know. I kind of fear agitation, especially not especially, but political agitation, because a lot of people have varied decisions that have no right to, because the discussion get heated with some people. So yeah, A Man Called Ove is an amazing read. Great, so we can read A Man Called Ove. Metamorphosis, please. Why does your stream feel so short? Are all the good things? Uh, Saptarshi is having a first world problem in the comments section today. Maybe he can write Catcher in the Rye 2.0. I used to only write page numbers. So now there are a lot of page numbers, but there's nothing against it to help me understand what page depends to what. Gabriel Garcia Marquez, 100 years, it's 100 years of solitude. We should pick up Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Why not? There are like so many different, okay, 1000 years. It's 100 years, guys. 100 years of solitude. This is the only thing I'm certain of in life because I've recommended this book to so many people. So many people. Oh, Henry. I love O. Henry. Yes, I would also like to discuss Metamorphosis. I don't know whether I understand the ending or not. So, guys, okay, okay. We have two most requested people. Actually, three, but I'll still count two. One is Metamorphosis, which has two votes, and then it's Gabriel Garcia Marquez, which has two votes again. So, please vote in the comments. I think we can have two more minutes. I'll give you 3 minutes, and we can vote on it. Which one do you want to discuss? Gabriel Garcia Marquez's 100 Years of Solitude or Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka? And until then, I can just, I don't know. I'm trying to find this thing. And I hope a lot of you actually pick up Catcher in the Rye after this thing because I'll be overwhelmed if you pick up this book after this live and like it and think it's not a waste of time. Okay, we are having wait, make meta. You can't vote twice, just know that. Saptarshi will give like minus points from now on. Okay. Gabriel Garcia Marquez has three. Metamorphosis has three. Metamorphosis, okay, four. Is anyone keeping notes because I've lost it? Four, five, 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 five. We can put a community post as well. That's the easiest idea. But yeah, is anyone keeping score? I think 100 Years of Solitude wins. So cool. We can discuss 100 Years of Solitude in the next live, and maybe someday we will discuss Janwar Ke Khed, Animal Farm in Hindi. And yep, I couldn't finish Catcher in the Rye, but I remember the tone of the writing so, so well. This is so exciting. I'm just going to stay back a few minutes. What is something that you loved about the tone of writing, Kirti? Please let me know. Um, no, loved. She just says she remembered it. What is something that, like, why do you remember the tone of writing actually? I'm waiting for the answer. And if anyone can give us the score on Gabriel Garcia Marquez and Franz Kafka, that'll be great. It better not be Saptarshi. But yeah, Mayank, you're too late. But we can discuss post office as well someday. But for the next live, let's decide on the book. It's either 100 Years of Solitude or it's Metamorphosis. Yeah. I personally would love to discuss either. But yeah, I mean, I would favor Gabriel Garcia Marquez any day. I'm sorry. Uh, yeah, the post office. Here again, it's the post office by Tagore and post office by yeah, Bukowski. I lost. I'm still waiting for Kirti to tell us what does she remember about the tone of the writing of Catcher in the Rye because that's very interesting. I would want to know. Hmm. Shall I still wait? But yeah. And if Kirti, you're still watching, please email me about this because I would really want to know your opinion on the tone of the book. Because this is an interesting uh, comment because I myself was rather influenced by the tone of this book. Maybe initially I was underwhelmed, then at a point I was intimidated. And then I think I just kept the plot aside and I let the tone decide the book for me until I read it again when I loved it. How thick is Catcher in the Rye? Uh, this it has my copy has about it has 192 pages and the text is this small. I can just read the last chapter to you. So chapter 26. For those of you who haven't seen the book, oh, for those of you who haven't read the book, I I don't know. I don't want you to leave, but I think you should leave because I'll read the last chapter as a commemoratory note, as a celebratory note for all the people. Um, when our protagonist finishes his story or whatever, this is the chapter 26, which is just 3 paragraphs long. And yep, that's the last chapter. That's all I am going to tell you about. I could probably tell you what I did after I went home and how I got sick and all, and what school I'm supposed to go to the next fall, to go to next fall after I get out of here, but I don't feel like it. I really don't. That stuff doesn't interest me too much right now. A lot of people, especially this one psychoanalyst guy they have here, keeps asking me if I'm going to apply myself when I go back to school next September. It's such a stupid question, in my opinion. I mean, how do you know what you're going to do till you do it? The answer is you don't. I think I am, but how do I know? I swear it's a stupid question. DB isn't as bad as the rest of them, but he keeps asking me a lot of questions too. He drove over last Saturday with this English babe that's in this new picture he's writing. DB is his brother, in case you've forgotten. She was pretty affected, but very good looking. Anyway, one time when she went to the ladies' room way the hell down in the other wing, DB asked me what I thought about all this stuff I just finished telling you about. I didn't know what the hell to say. If you want to know the truth, I don't know what I think about it. I'm sorry I told so many people about it. About all I know is I sort of miss everybody I told about. Even old Stradlater and Ackley, for instance. I think I even miss that goddamn Maurice. It's funny. Don't ever tell anybody anything. If you do, you start missing everybody. And I love this line. Don't ever tell anybody anything. If you do, you start missing everybody. And therefore, I think we can stop this, and maybe next week we can pick up The 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Or maybe I'll do a poll on Insta or maybe YouTube and you guys can tune in. And please write to me if you want to discuss a book, etc. And I'll be so happy to discuss the same with you. And my email is vaanimahesh04@gmail.com. And so I'll see you guys soon, hopefully on Thursday. And thank you for watching. Oh, Kirti replied, this shouldn't happen again and again, right? Okay, the reason why Kirti really remembers the tone is because Salinger really makes a caricature out of teenage angst, which is really right. Thank you, Utkarsa, for pointing it out. But yeah, I think this will be it. Go back to sleep. And maybe you can pick up Catcher in the Rye and let me know if you liked it. I hope you liked today's stream. And I will be back on Thursday again and we can discuss short stories with Weber. Good night, guys. Have a good week.